My name is Helen Monroe. I'm 24 years old. And this is the story of how my parents sold the only thing I truly owned, my $2,800 work computer, for my sister's vanity project, and how that betrayal became the last straw. It wasn't always like this. When I was a little girl, I used to think family was everything. That no matter how hard the world hit you, your family would be the ones to catch you. I clung to that belief, even when the cracks started to show. We lived in a modest two-story home just outside of Seattle. My dad was a contractor, my mom worked part-time at a home decor boutique, and my younger sister Lauren, 3 years my junior, was the sun around which the entire family revolved. And me? I was just the quiet one, the responsible one, the she'll-be-fine daughter. I didn't need much growing up. Not clothes, not parties, not attention. What I did need, though, was space to dream, to build, to create. At 14, I watched my cousin play video games on a clunky desktop, mesmerized by the colors, the worlds, the mechanics. That's where it started. A love for gaming, which over time evolved into a passion for tech, design, and digital storytelling. But in our house, passions were only worth nurturing if they aligned with Lauren's future. Lauren, the star. She was the dancer, the fashionista, the girl with headshots taped to the fridge. She had charm, presence, and most importantly, my parents' full support. Meanwhile, I worked weekends as a library assistant and taught myself Photoshop on a decade-old laptop with a cracked screen. I never complained. I just saved every dollar I could, hoarding gift cards and freelance payments like treasure. My dream was simple, to build my own custom PC. It took 3 years. 3 years of missed parties. Of skipping out on new clothes and nice meals. 3 years of grinding, designing logos, editing photos, doing tedious animation work for small-time YouTubers who barely paid, but it added up. The day I finally assembled that rig was one of the proudest moments of my life. It was more than just a computer. It was everything I had fought for. Every part was handpicked. The graphics card I'd hunted down during a Black Friday sale, the processor that cost me half a month's wages, the cooling system I'd installed myself with trembling hands. It was my career, my future. And finally, it was working. With that PC, my freelance work skyrocketed. I picked up consistent gigs, social media branding for local cafes, promo graphics for streamers, even a couple of minor video game assets. I wasn't making millions, but I was finally independent. Paying my own rent, buying groceries, investing in myself. But in our house, success was only acknowledged if it wore makeup and posed well in photos. Lauren, of course, had just landed a fancy internship in Los Angeles, something in fashion media. Naturally, my parents were ecstatic. They emptied their savings to help her rent a chic apartment near downtown. I didn't say anything, even when Mom bragged about the Italian velvet curtains and how Lauren's workspace had to reflect her creative energy. Meanwhile, I was working on a chip desk in a room where the door didn't even close properly. Still, I kept my head down. Until one night, just after I'd submitted a rush job for a client in Japan, Mom knocked on my door. "Helen," she said sweetly, "can we talk?" I paused, suspicious already. That tone only ever meant one thing: someone wanted something. She stepped in, smiling like a diplomat. "So, Lauren's been having some issues with her laptop. It's just not powerful enough to render her videos. She really needs a better system." I turned in my chair slowly. "Okay. Well," she said, drawing out the word, "we were thinking maybe she could borrow your desktop. Just for a little while. You can work on your laptop again, right? It's still functional." I stared at her. "That desktop is how I make a living," I said carefully. "My laptop can barely run Chrome and Photoshop at the same time." Mom sighed. "Helen, be reasonable. Your sister's working on her career. It's temporary. Besides, you're not even using it for anything big right now, are you?" I couldn't even speak. My heart was pounding, my mouth dry. "I built that computer," I finally said. "With my own money. 3 years of work. And Lauren has an opportunity right now, Mom countered. She needs our support. Our support. Funny how it never included her giving up anything. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just shook my head and said no. I thought that was the end of it. But 3 days later, on a regular Saturday afternoon, I came back from grabbing groceries to find my room ransacked. The desk was empty. Gone. Everything. The monitor, the tower, the keyboard, the mouse, even the gaming chair I'd saved up for. For a moment, I thought I'd been robbed. But the window was shut. The rest of the house was untouched. I sprinted downstairs. Mom was sipping tea like it was any other day. Dad was flipping through a catalog. Lauren was laughing at something on her phone. Where is it? I demanded. Mom didn't even blink. We sold it. I blinked. What? Your PC. Dad chimed in. We sold it. Lauren needed urgent funds for her graduation showcase. It's important for her portfolio. I stood there, frozen. You what? You're overreacting, Mom said calmly. It was just a computer. You can always build another one. Something inside me cracked. Not broke. Cracked sharp, clean, permanent. Did you even ask me? I whispered. Or is it just assumed that anything I own can be sacrificed when Lauren snaps her fingers? Dad put the catalog down. We're a family, Helen. Family means helping each other. No, I snapped. In this family, it means I give, and Lauren takes. And I've had enough. Lauren looked up then, smug and unbothered. Thanks for the cash, by the way. We got more than expected. Lucky, huh? I wanted to scream. But I didn't, because in that moment, I knew this wasn't about a computer. This was about my dignity, my boundaries, my existence. They thought they'd stolen from me and I would just accept it like always. They had no idea. This wasn't over. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a minute. I sat in my empty room staring at the bare desk, still half expecting to wake up from a nightmare. But the truth was far crueler than any dream. My parents, the people who raised me, had decided my hard-earned livelihood meant nothing the moment Lauren needed something shiny to show off. The silence of the house mocked me. The creak of the floorboards, the ticking of the old clock in the hallway, it all sounded louder now. Louder because the low hum of my PC, that beautiful machine I had built with my own hands, was gone. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I was too angry, too stunned, too focused. By 1 a.m., I was digging through my folders on my dusty old laptop, the one I hadn't touched in months because it struggled to even boot. It flickered and wheezed, but I coaxed it to life. Then I got to work. Receipts, screenshots, bank statements. Every invoice from every freelance project. The blueprint I'd sketched out when choosing the parts. Even the emails from tech support when one of the cooling fans malfunctioned. I documented everything, every cent that went into building that PC, every dollar I earned using it. And then I found it, the ad. My father had listed the computer for sale under his name on a local marketplace site. The listing was still active, already marked sold with a timestamp and price, $1,200. They didn't even get half of what it was worth. They sold my entire business setup for pocket change and didn't even think I deserved a conversation about it. The next morning, I waited until everyone was gathered at the breakfast table. Dad had his newspaper. Mom was scrolling through her phone, half smiling at some recipe post. Lauren was sipping a smoothie, her painted nails tapping against the glass. I held a thick stack of papers in my hands. I want to talk, I said, my voice cutting through the air. Everyone froze. Dad looked up first. Still on about that computer? Helen, for God's sake. I dropped the papers on the table. Hard. This isn't about a computer, I said. It's about theft. Mom's face twitched. What are you saying? I'm saying you sold something that didn't belong to you. Something I bought. Something I worked years for. Without asking. Without even telling me. Helen, stop being dramatic, Dad snapped. You live under our roof. Everything here belongs to the family. I locked eyes with him. Wrong, I said, my voice cold. These are receipts showing every part was paid for by me, from my own account. These are payment records from clients who hired me to do real work on that computer. And this, I flipped to the last page, is a copy of your marketplace transaction. You sold my PC for $1,200. Lauren rolled her eyes. You're making such a big deal over a few bucks. I turned to her. A few bucks? That machine was my life's work. You got it handed to you like a party favor while I spent years building it. Mom shifted uncomfortably. So what now? You want the money? I stared at her. No. I want you to understand that I'm not a doormat. I want $1,200 in cash by the end of this week. Or I file a claim for misappropriation of personal property. You'd sue your own parents? She gasped. If that's what it takes to be treated like a human being, yes, I replied. The air grew thick. Dad's fists clenched. Lauren scoffed again, muttering something about family betrayal. But I didn't flinch. I didn't yell. I just stood my ground. And for once, they didn't know what to say. Later that day, I called Emily, my best friend since middle school. She answered on the second ring. Helen? You okay? I let out a breath. Not really. Can I store a few boxes at your place? I think I'm moving out. She didn't ask questions. Of course. Come by whenever. That night, I started packing. Quietly, discreetly. One drawer at a time. I made multiple trips to Emily's apartment, loading clothes, notebooks, drawing pads, even my backup tablet. I pretended I was cleaning. Mom didn't suspect anything. She thought I'd given up, sulking in silence like always. But this time, I wasn't waiting for anyone's approval. I was reclaiming my life, one step at a time. By Thursday, they still hadn't said a word about the money. Until that afternoon. I walked into the kitchen to find Mom standing stiffly by the counter, holding a white envelope. Here, she said, voice flat. Your precious $1,200. You got what you wanted. I didn't smile. I didn't say thank you. I just took the envelope and turned to leave. Dad's voice followed me. Don't expect anything else from this family. You've made it clear where you stand. I paused in the hallway. I never received anything from this family, I said. And that's why I'm leaving. That evening, I contacted the man who had bought my PC. I still had his number from the ad. He picked up. Hello. Hi, I said. You bought a custom PC a few days ago. My name is Helen. That machine was mine. It was sold without my permission. There was a pause. Then he said, I wondered. That was a crazy deal. Everything's pristine. I figured something wasn't right. I'm willing to buy it back, I said. Exactly what you paid, $1,200. He hesitated, then sighed. Honestly, I respect that. I didn't feel good about the way it was sold. You've got yourself a deal. We met at a cafe downtown. When I handed over the envelope, he slid the familiar box across the table. My tower. My work. My symbol of freedom. I ran my fingers over the cool metal, and for the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. But this wasn't the end. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was just the beginning of reclaiming who I was on my own terms. And the next chapter? That would begin with the front door slamming shut behind me for good. I carried the box like it was made of glass. Not because it was fragile, but because I was. The walk back from the cafe to Emily's place felt like a victory lap through invisible rubble, memories of being overlooked, stepped on, gaslit under the pretense of family values. But with every step, my grip tightened. This tower wasn't just metal and wires. It was proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy. That I had a right to be angry. That I had built something real, something no one had the right to take. Emily met me at the door, already holding it open. That it? I nodded, wordless. She stepped aside without questions. Inside, we set the box gently on the desk she'd cleared in her spare room. Feels weird, I murmured. Like I just smuggled back a piece of myself. Emily smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. They don't know what they lost. I sighed. They never cared to find out. That night, I powered up the PC. The startup chime rang through the room, and I swear it sounded like a heartbeat. My apps loaded, my design software blinked open, and there I was back in my world. But my parents' house? That wasn't home anymore. The walls had always felt too thin, too silent when I cried, too loud when Lauren left. There was no going back. The next morning, I made the final decision. I opened my laptop and started searching. Studio apartments in Seattle, budget $1,000 to $1,200. My savings were limited, but my freelance gigs were picking up again. I had enough for a deposit and a couple months' rent, as long as I hustled. I found a listing that didn't look like much, just 30 square meters in a building near Maple Avenue. White walls, worn floorboards, no balcony. But it was clean. Safe. Mine. I called the number. A woman answered. Doris speaking. Hi, I'm calling about the studio on Maple. Is it still available? There was a pause. It's small, honey. You sure you're not looking for something bigger? I smiled. I'm sure. I just need somewhere I can breathe. She chuckled softly. That I can give you. Come by tomorrow morning. I'll be there. That night, I opened all my freelance platforms, refreshed my profile, sent follow-up emails, reposted my availability in community groups. I didn't have a plan B. This was it. Do or die. I also quietly reactivated my streaming channel, one I'd neglected while trying to survive at home. The username was still there. The bio still read, just a girl chasing pixels and peace. I updated my banner and posted a simple update. New stream schedule coming soon. Time to rebuild. The support from my tiny community was instant. Comments like, "You got this, Helen," and "We missed you," flooded my inbox. It wasn't fame, but it was love, the kind I never had at home. Over the next few days, I packed what little I had. Emily helped, never once complaining. I carried boxes in shifts to her car, while at home I pretended to be organizing. My parents didn't ask questions. Maybe they knew. Maybe they didn't care. The day I signed the lease, Doris handed me the keys with a smile. No smoking, no parties, no noise past 10. No problem, I said, clutching the keys like they were treasure. I'm just here to start over. The moment I stepped into that apartment, my apartment, I stood in the center of the room and turned slowly, arms wide. Silence. But the good kind. No footsteps stomping down the hallway. No slamming doors. No snide remarks echoing through the walls. Just peace. I sat at my desk by the window, positioned my monitor, reconnected my gear. The hum of the fans filled the room again, this time uninterrupted. Later that night, I typed out a short note. Just 2 sentences. Thank you for teaching me what not to become. I won't be troubling this family any longer. I left it on the dining table and walked out of that house without looking back. They didn't follow. They didn't call. I didn't expect them to. But I wasn't gone from their lives just yet. Because even from a distance, people like my mother and sister can't stand losing control. It started subtly. The failed login attempts on my freelance platform. Random password resets on my email. Notifications that someone tried accessing my accounts. At first, I thought it was a hacker. But the IP address? From my old neighborhood. They weren't just bitter. They were trying to sabotage me. To force me to come crawling back. To prove their point that I couldn't survive without them. But they didn't know how much I'd changed. I enabled every security feature available. Changed every password. Locked down my online presence like a fortress. Then I doubled down on my work. Design projects rolled in faster than I could keep up. Word spread in my small network. A boutique in Portland wanted a rebrand. A local startup asked for an entire product design kit. My streaming channel reached affiliate status, then partnership. It was slow growth, but steady and real. One afternoon, I ran into Mrs. Peterson, my mom's old coworker, at the grocery store. She recognized me instantly. "Helen, you look different," she said. I feel different, I replied with a smile. She lowered her voice, almost conspiratorially. Your mom's been a bit of a mess at work. Says Lauren's big exhibition drained all their savings. Someone said they even mortgaged your dad's land out in the suburbs. I blinked. The land. That was supposed to be their retirement fund. Gone. All for Lauren's fantasy career. I'm just telling you so you know, Mrs. Peterson added gently. Your mom always said you were the responsible one. Maybe a bit too quiet. I nodded, heart steady. Not anymore. That night, I received a message from Lauren. A photo of a credit card statement, maxed out. Followed by, can you give us a hand? After all, it's a family matter. I stared at it for a long minute. Then forwarded it to our old family group chat with one sentence. This is what happens when you burn bridges and expect someone to come back carrying water. No response. No apology. No tantrum. Just silence. And for once, silence felt like justice. Silence. It stretched on for hours. Then a full day. Then 2. My message sat in the family group chat like a lit match dropped on dry leaves, but nothing ignited. Not right away. For a moment, I thought maybe they'd finally gotten the message. That I was done being the scapegoat, the fallback, the emergency fund they could raid without warning. But I should have known better. It came on the 3rd day. My phone vibrated with a call from a number I didn't recognize at first. But I knew that rhythm. That persistence. For rings, a pause, then again. 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 Dad. I let it ring. Then came the texts. What childish game are you playing? You don't turn your back on family like this. Come back and fix what you broke. Fix what I broke? I stared at the screen, not even angry anymore. Just tired. Tired of being the only one ever expected to bend. And then, Lauren chimed in. You think you're special now? Just because you moved out and have a couple of jobs? The world doesn't care, Helen. You'll come crawling back. You always do. It was almost funny, the desperation dressed up as mockery. But it didn't touch me the way it used to. I wasn't that version of Helen anymore. I typed a single reply into the group chat. I'm not coming back. I've spent years being treated like I didn't matter. Family isn't blind sacrifice for one person's ego. That Charlotte you controlled is gone. Stop contacting me. This is my final request. Send. Done. There was no scream from the other end. No pleading. Just, eventually, one more message. From Mom. You're destroying this family, Helen. One day you'll fail, and when you do, you'll see no one else will accept you. Don't expect this house to take you back. I read it once. Then again. And then I did something I dreamed of doing for years. I opened my contacts. My thumb hovered briefly, not because I hesitated, but because I wanted to feel it. That moment. That break. One tap on Mom. Delete. Another on Dad. Delete. And one final on Lauren. Delete. 3 taps. 3 chains undone. I set my phone down and stared at the small studio I now called home. A breeze drifted through the cracked window. My tiny houseplant by the sill, a birthday gift from Emily, fluttered a single leaf. Peace. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just peace. That night, during my usual stream, I hesitated before starting the game. Then I switched scenes to my webcam. There I was on screen, no filter, no makeup. Dark circles under my eyes, but a small smile on my face. Hey guys, I said. Before we dive in tonight, I want to share something. I walked away from my family this week. For good. The chat lit up instantly. Messages of support. Of disbelief. Of recognition. Some said, I know how hard that is. Others said, you did the right thing. And then someone typed, you just gave me the courage to say no too. That one broke me. Not into sadness. Into something stronger. I smiled, nodded, and started the game, hands steady, voice sure. The following weeks moved quickly. My freelance gigs picked up. One local clothing brand asked me to revamp their seasonal lookbook layout. Another small cafe in Tacoma wanted a full social rebrand. Each project brought new challenges, but also small wins. Steady income. Repeat clients. Praise that was never laced with conditions or backhanded compliments. But one message caught me off guard. It was from Mia Reynolds. If you're into streaming, you know that name. A former top-tier gaming personality who had left the spotlight for advocacy and mentorship. Her story? Publicly walking away from a toxic, controlling family that tried to own her image and earnings. She messaged me on Discord. "Hey Helen, I've been watching your streams. Quiet strength. I recognize it. Would you be open to speaking at a workshop I'm hosting? For young female creators. Just tell your story. No filters." I stared at the message for a long time. Me? The invisible girl from the background of family portraits? The one they only called when something broke? It felt unreal. But then I remembered. I wasn't invisible anymore. I replied, yes. I'd be honored. The workshop was held in a community arts center downtown. Small, modest, but full of young faces, some excited, some scared, all searching for something they hadn't been given yet, permission to dream on their own terms. Mia introduced me simply. This is Helen. She walked away from everything that tried to cage her. And still, she stands. I took the mic, heart pounding, but words flowing like I'd waited my whole life to say them. "I'm not here to bash my family," I began. "I'm here to tell you that loving someone doesn't mean letting them break you. And sometimes, the people who say they love you most will guilt you hardest for growing beyond their reach." I spoke about the $2,800 computer, the betrayal, the silence, the slow rebirth. And when I finished, there wasn't a roaring cheer. Just the kind of applause that felt like breathing, slow, full, real. Afterward, a girl approached me. Couldn't have been more than 19. "My mom says streaming is stupid," she whispered. "That I'm wasting my time. But hearing you, I think I finally understand. It's not about streaming. It's about choosing yourself." I hugged her. Not out of pity. Out of recognition. Because I had once been her. Walking home that night, I realized something profound. All this time, I thought I had lost something by leaving my family behind. But the truth? I had gained myself. And I wasn't going to give me up ever again. The workshop changed something in me. Not overnight. Not in some grand epiphany. But quietly, like the slow return of sensation after you've been numb for too long. When I got back to my apartment that evening, I sat in front of my PC, my reclaimed, battle-worn tower, and opened a blank document. I didn't even know what I was going to write. But my fingers moved anyway. I ended up writing a letter. Not one I ever intended to send. Just a letter to myself. You didn't lose your family, Helen. You lost the illusion that they'd ever see you. It was true. They never mourned my departure. Never even asked why I left. Only demanded that I come back. That I fix things. That I keep sacrificing while they kept taking. But I was done playing the martyr. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Freelance requests started flooding in. My calendar filled with client calls, revision notes, pitch decks. I was still barely making enough to build real savings, but I was surviving and, more importantly, on my own terms. My streams? They grew too. Slowly but steadily. Not with viral fame, but with loyalty. People who showed up every week. Who stayed long after the credits rolled. Who told me in chat, "You helped me leave my toxic job," or "You reminded me I'm allowed to want more." That was my favorite part. Helping someone else find the door out, even if I had to crawl through it first. One rainy morning, I got a call from the studio in Tacoma, the one I'd done some branding work for. "Hey Helen," their manager said. "We loved your style. Would you consider working with us on a contract basis? Remote, of course. Flexible hours." I nearly dropped my tea. "Are you serious?" I asked, blinking hard. "We are. You're talented. And professional. We could use someone like you." It wasn't just a gig. It was a lifeline. I accepted on the spot. And just like that, something clicked inside me. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was building. Brick by brick, client by client, I was crafting the very life my family swore I couldn't handle without them. But they weren't done testing that. Because of course, right when things were looking up, they resurfaced. One night, as I was finishing up a project, a notification popped up. An email from Lauren. The subject line, "Let's talk like sisters." I stared at it. I knew better. But curiosity got the best of me. I opened it. "Hey, Helen. I know things got kind of dramatic, but I've been thinking a lot lately. Maybe we both said things we didn't mean. I miss having you around. We were sisters before all this. Can't we just talk?" I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. Sisters? This from the same person who smirked at me when my work was sold without my permission? Who watched me unravel and still asked for more? Still, a part of me, a soft, naive sliver, wanted to believe maybe she meant it. Maybe she'd changed. So I responded. Carefully. Talking is fine. But only if we're honest. No guilt. No manipulation. Just truth. She replied within an hour. Of course. That's all I want. We scheduled a video call the next day. I dressed simply. Sat upright at my desk. The same desk she helped empty months ago. But now it was mine again. Every inch of it. When the camera came on, there she was, polished, filtered, the golden child in high definition. "Hey," she smiled. "You look good. Independent suits you." "Thanks," I said evenly. "You look expensive." She laughed, a practiced sound. "Always." There was a beat of silence. So, she started, "I've been thinking. Maybe we got off on the wrong foot. I know I've been privileged, but I didn't ask to be the favorite. That was mom and dad. I just took what they offered." I tilted my head. "And what they took from me?" "I never asked them to sell your PC," she said quickly. "That was their choice. But you benefited," I said. "And you didn't object. You just said thank you." She looked away. I didn't know what to say. "You didn't say sorry." She flinched. "Well, I'm saying it now. I'm sorry, Helen." And for a moment, I almost believed her. Until she added, "I was also hoping you could look over my website portfolio. I'm applying for some influencer contracts and they require branding consistency." I figured, who better than my sister? There it was. The real reason. My stomach dropped. "You're reaching out because you need free work," I said flatly. "What?" "No, You said you wanted to talk. But this isn't about reconciliation. This is about convenience." Again. Her expression darkened. "I'm trying to make amends here." "No. You're trying to keep the perks of having me around, without ever respecting the cost." She sighed dramatically. "Why do you always assume the worst?" "Because I've lived the worst," I said. "And I'm finally not living it anymore." I ended the call, blocked the email, sat back in my chair, and exhaled. It didn't hurt like I thought it would, because now I understood. Lauren didn't want a sister. She wanted a support beam, and I wasn't holding up her fragile kingdom anymore. Later that night, I told my stream what had happened, in vague terms. No names, no bitterness. Just the story of someone trying to set a boundary and someone else trying to turn it into a door. The chat erupted. "Proud of you, Helen. People only respect you when you stop giving them free passes. She's not your responsibility." And they were right. I wasn't here to fix Lauren. Or our parents. I was here to fix what they broke in me. And finally, I was getting somewhere. A week passed after the video call with Lauren. No follow-ups. No sudden apologies. Just that familiar vacuum of silence that always followed after they didn't get what they wanted from me. I thought maybe it was finally over. That they'd gotten the message loud and clear. But when people like my family feel their grip loosening, they don't accept it. They double down. It started subtly again. A random social media comment on my art account wouldn't exist without family funding, LOL. Then another, a sarcastic DM, Hard to be self-made when you grew up in a house someone else paid for. Anonymous, of course. But the language? The timing? It was Lauren. Or Mom. Or both. They were trying to smear me in the only place they had left, online. I didn't respond. I refused to let them pull me back into their circus. But I wasn't going to be silent, either. That weekend, I streamed for nearly 4 hours. And somewhere in the middle, I paused the game, looked into the camera, and spoke, not to them, but to anyone out there who'd ever been used like I had. If you've ever been told your dreams are a phase, if your success is only celebrated when it benefits someone else, if your worth is measured in how much you give up, this is your sign to stop playing along. You don't owe anyone your silence. The chat went still at first. Then it exploded. You're speaking my life. I needed to hear that tonight. I walked out last month, still scared. But this helped. That night, I got more follower growth than I'd had in a year. Not because I was trendy, because I was real. The next morning, I got a call from a private number. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened, I recognized the voice instantly. Mom. Helen, I don't know what you're saying about us online, but this is disgusting. You're making us look like monsters. We're still your parents. We deserve respect. If you have any decency left, you'll call me back. Immediately. I played the voicemail twice, then deleted it. Respect, she said. Funny how the people who demand it are often the ones who give it the least. That afternoon, I walked to a small cafe down the street from my studio. My regular spot now. The barista knew my order. The manager had hired me to redesign their menu boards. Real community. As I waited for my coffee, a woman approached me. Excuse me, are you Helen Monroe? I blinked. Yes. She smiled. I watch your streams. I'm a freelance illustrator. You helped me leave a toxic contract last month. I just wanted to say thank you. She handed me a small pin, a hand-painted pixel heart. I took it slowly. You made this? Yep, she said, beaming. A little reminder that people like us? We don't need to beg to belong. We build. That moment stayed with me for days. It wasn't about the pin. It was the validation that came from outside the walls I used to live in. Strangers now saw me more clearly than my own family ever did. And the universe, it seemed, wasn't done validating me. 2 weeks later, the studio in Tacoma emailed again. Helen, we're launching a new product line. We want you to be the lead designer. It comes with a 6-month contract and a stipend for equipment upgrades. If you're interested, let's talk. I read it 3 times before it sank in. Lead designer. Me. No permission needed. No parental approval. No Lauren. Just me. I accepted the offer within the hour. Then I celebrated the only way that felt right. I bought myself a brand new chair. Not fancy. Just sturdy. Supportive. Mine. That evening, I unpacked the pin from my coat pocket and pinned it to the corner of my monitor. A tiny, pixelated heart. Proof that healing doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Steady. Cumulative. Around that same time, my old landlord Doris knocked on my door one morning. Got a package for you, Han, she said, holding a thick envelope. I furrowed my brow. I haven't ordered anything. No return address, she shrugged. But it says urgent. And it smells like drama. I laughed, until I opened it. Inside, a letter. Handwritten. The kind Mom only ever wrote when she wanted to guilt-trip me. Dear Helen, I hope this reaches you before you make more decisions that you can't undo. We're still your family. I don't know what stories you're spreading or who you think you are now, but it's hurting us. Lauren is struggling emotionally. Your father barely eats. I wake up crying. Is that what you wanted? If not, then it's time to come home and fix this. Families forgive, Helen. Come home. Love, Mom. No apology. No ownership. Just guilt. Accusation. A carefully constructed plea designed to make me feel like I was the villain in a story they wrote. I folded the letter neatly, slipped it back into the envelope, Then I wrote a short note on a sticky pad and placed it inside. You can only come home if it still feels like home. It never did. I walked to the post office and mailed it back without a return address. Then I blocked the number that left the voicemail. Blocked the backup numbers too. I wasn't being cruel. I was closing a chapter. And this time, for good. Because when you finally start to heal, you realize you don't need to convince anyone of your side. The truth doesn't need an audience. It just needs distance. And I was putting miles between me and their chaos. The letter was the last attempt. After that, the silence that followed didn't feel like punishment. It felt like peace. A quiet kind of peace I had never known growing up in a house where every conversation had an agenda, every gift came with conditions, and every act of love was something you had to earn. Now, there were no doors slamming, no footsteps pacing, no voices lecturing me about how Lauren's future matters more. Just me, and the gentle whir of the PC I had fought to get back. That same week, I signed the new contract with the Tacoma studio. My title officially changed, lead visual designer. I had access to new creative tools, more resources than I'd ever dreamed of, and most importantly, the respect of people who valued what I brought to the table. I was finally seen. Not as someone's backup plan, not as the mature older sister who always gave in, but as an individual with talent, discipline, and a voice that couldn't be drowned out anymore. I celebrated in the smallest, most personal way possible. I bought a plant, a rubber fig with wide, glossy leaves. I placed it near my window, the same one that let in warm morning light when I worked, the same one I used to stare out of at night, wondering if I'd made the right choice leaving my family behind. The answer was always yes. Around this time, I received an invitation from Mia Reynolds again. This time, not for a workshop, but a full panel at a regional conference for independent creators and women in tech. I hesitated. Imposter syndrome crept in. But Mia texted me directly. People need to see what healing looks like, especially when it isn't loud or perfect. So I went. Standing backstage, I looked out over a room full of people, aspiring designers, struggling creators, young women with fire in their eyes and doubts in their hearts. The same things I used to carry. When it was my turn, I stepped onto the stage. No slides. No pitch. Just a mic. My name is Helen Monroe, I began, and for most of my life, I believed that being a good daughter meant sacrificing everything, my time, my voice, my future. I let the silence hang for a beat. And then one day, I realized I wasn't the selfish one. I was just the only one who stopped pretending I didn't matter. I told them everything. Not every ugly detail, but the important ones. The PC they sold without permission, the manipulations dressed up as love, the painful clarity that family, if it's truly family, doesn't make you feel like a burden for having boundaries. When I stepped down, the applause wasn't deafening. It was something better. Genuine. Afterward, a young woman approached me. She didn't say anything at first, just hugged me. A real, shaking, tearful hug. Then she whispered, "Thank you for surviving out loud." That night, back in my apartment, I opened a stream. Not for gaming. Not for design. Just to talk. This is my life now, I said. Not perfect. Not flashy. But mine. And if anyone watching this is stuck in a place where you're told love only exists if you shrink yourself, I'm here to tell you, you don't have to stay. My chat exploded with stories, support, and quiet acknowledgments from people too scared to speak out loud, but brave enough to type. Me too. I ended the stream and sat quietly in my chair. The one I bought with my own money. In the apartment I paid for with my own skills. Surrounded by things that weren't expensive, but sacred, my plant, my desk, my rebuilt PC, and my peace. And then, something unexpected happened. A package. No return label, no note. Inside, a small velvet pouch and a crumpled receipt. The receipt was from a boutique in LA. The same one Lauren had modeled for during her fashion internship. Inside the pouch? A cheap necklace. Plastic beads, fading paint. The same one I had worn in a school photo when I was 9 years old. Back then, it was the only thing I had picked out myself. I loved it. I remember Lauren had snapped it in half during a tantrum and no one apologized. No one replaced it. And now, after all these years, here it was. Replaced. Repaired. Returned. Was it from Lauren? From Mom? I didn't know. And I didn't need to. Because I didn't feel a flicker of longing or closure or reconciliation. Just clarity. This was not a peace offering. It was a reminder. A symbol that I would never again be the little girl waiting for someone to value what mattered to her. I kept it. Not for nostalgia, but as a trophy. Because I had finally done something they never thought I would. I chose myself. Every morning now, I brew my coffee, water my plant, and power up my PC. And every day, I build my brand, my community, my life. One decision at a time. And you know what? They still watch. Quietly, indirectly. Through fake accounts. Through mutual friends. I see the views, the occasional passive-aggressive comment that slips through filters. But I don't respond. Not because I'm scared. Because I'm free. And when I get asked, would you ever go back? I smile. No. Not because I'm bitter. But because I'm finally home. Helen's story reminds us of a painful truth. Sometimes the people closest to us are the ones who teach us how strong we have to become just to be free. But freedom isn't rebellion. It's clarity. It's choosing peace over guilt, growth over obligation, and self-respect over silence. If you've ever had to walk away from the people who claim to love you, just to remember who you are, then this story was for you. What do you think about Helen's decision? Was cutting them off an act of selfishness, or was it the only way to heal? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories from Revenge Echoes, where stories speak louder than revenge.